Hello, everybody. Today, before I start my this next story, it's going to be a truck driving story. I want to give a shout out to my my favorite place to eat in the whole Charleston area. Now, this is an Italian place. It's called the Mici's Italian Bistro. It's on Northwoods Boulevard, and you local people in Charleston area, this is right past the Home Depot on Northwoods Boulevard, and this is about the best Italian food. Now it's American Italian, but it is the service is always good, the food is always good, the portions is always good, and it's very affordable. I'm going to put just a small video of this entree that I ordered. I guess about 2 days ago. It was baked ziti, and I had a salad, and the receipt that I'm going to attach to this video shows that there's like $1.05 extra charge on the salad. That's because I always have artichokes on it. I love artichokes. But anyway, look at the receipt. Look at the price. I mean, the price of the entree. You ain't getting any food like this for these prices downtown Charleston. Nothing with the food down there, but it's a little pricier than up in North Charleston. And I think the quality is just as good as if you was going downtown to eat. Now, also you see a Knobs Creek drink on there. I was I was out of control that day. I had me a Knobs Creek whiskey, and that was almost $10 right there. But look at the total bill. I mean, this is awesome. So if you're in local area, you need to try it. If you come to Charleston to visit, you need to try it. This story that I'm about to tell you is a story about one of my experiences in truck driving, driving for Superior Carriers as a tanker company, liquid chemicals. Uh, we carried everything but fuels. Superior Carriers was bought out by Hennef, so there's no more Superior Carriers anymore. But anyway, this story is about a delivery that I made. I think maybe like 2014, up to a little town called the Pas Manitoba. And the Pas Manitoba is about almost 300 miles northwest of Winnipeg, Canada. As you can see at the bottom of the screen where Winnipeg is, it's about probably Winnipeg is about maybe 45 minutes north of the U.S. Canada border, but it's about an 8 hour drive from Winnipeg up to the Paw, and it's very, very rural. You can see at the top of the screen where the Paw is, and I don't know even what the population is. I don't know, probably maybe 6,000. But anyway, so this is just a image just to show you how far north it is. Okay, on this particular trip, I was following my usual routine of when I would go up to the Paw because it was such a long drive up there, and I would stay overnight at a Headley, Manitoba. It's just maybe like 10 miles to the west of Winnipeg. There's a Flying J truck stop there, and as always, I would get up to that truck stop and shut down, do my 10-hour break, um, and then I would do my pre-trip inspection. I would refuel, make sure both of my fuel tanks was full of diesel. It was 100 gallons each tank, and you needed it because it was about um, maybe 7.5 to 8 hour drive just up to the customer. And so on this particular day, it was like I think January 5th, 2014. Um, my truck started shutting off about maybe 1:32 in the morning, which was right in the middle of my sleep time because I would get up about about 4 o'clock. Um, and I would get from the sleeper. I'd go from the sleeper to the cab, try to crank it up and run for maybe 15 seconds, then to shut off. That happened, probably 4 or 5 times, and I knew that something was wrong. Um, I got out just to look and see, if I could see anything different. And I noticed there was a frost line on the fuel tanks. And what was happening was that it was so cold that night, it was 29 degrees below zero. It was so cold that the diesel fuel gelled up. And, so it wasn't a liquid anymore and the engine couldn't run. So it kept shutting down. Well, I had to call a wrecker. Uh, about 5 o'clock in the morning was when I finally was able to get a hold of a business that had wreckers, big wrecker for a big truck. Um, they said they would be out there as soon as possible because there was some other American drivers had the same problem. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about the American thing. So they didn't get out there. The record didn't get out to the truck stop until around 12:30 that day. But they had a warm front come in. It made it all the way up to 12 degrees. And let me tell you something. One thing the one thing that was amazing to me was there was two lot lizards. Now lot lizards are truck stop prostitutes. Um, there was two lot lizards out there working the lot at 12:30 in 12-degree weather, wearing a skirt, and they were wearing high boots because there's snow out there in the parking lot. And these lot lizards was very good looking. They was like Shania Twain looking. Complete contrast from the American truck stop, American lot lizards, because their looks more like Willie Nelson and maybe Jimi Hendrix. Um, so anyway, that's just one thing that I remembered about that. There were so many beautiful women in Canada. But anyway, so I had to be towed. My tractor and the trailer full of product had to be towed up to Ramwind Diesel in Winnipeg, and I had to once we got up there to the diesel shop, I had to unhook the trailer so they could pull the tractor into the shop, and had to sit there for almost 2 days to completely thaw out so they could reprime the engine and get me up and running. Well, it was about 8 degrees that morning that I actually got up and running. I had to go hook the trailer up, hook the in transit heat up. Just a quick description of what in transit heat is. On tanker trailers, you're carrying liquids. Some of the products has to be a certain temperature before the customer will accept it. Well, um, they have these lines that run um, around the trailer, the interior skin of the trailer. It's called in transit heat, and what it does is you charge the trailer with coolant, and it takes about 6 gallons of coolant to completely charge it with antifreeze. Well, about 30-45 minutes up the road from Winnipeg, when I'm got hooked up and on the road again, I noticed that I started losing coolant. My coolant temperature alarm started going off in my truck. Well, I was able to pull over, went out and looked to see if there's any leak. There's no leak underneath the tractor. It was leaking from the in transit line, the in line on the trailer. It was so cold sitting out there in the parking lot of the diesel shop that the gasket in the in transit heat line, um, it, they just burst. So now I'm losing coolant out of the trailer, which is affecting my tractor because what it does is it circulates the coolant from the engine. The engine is heating up that coolant and running through the in transit heat lines into the trailer and it circulates. So as long as the engine is running, it's running hot coolant through them in transit heat lines in the trailer. Well, luckily I had some extra gaskets on my in transit heat hoses, and I was able to get that fixed. And wouldn't you know, luckily I had extra 6 or 7 gallons of coolant in my truck because when you go up that area, you better have plenty of supplies. You better look for something to happen. But anyway, I was able to add coolant to the engine and got it up and running. So it took 7.5 hours from that point to get up to the Pas. Now, the Pas is so far north of Winnipeg that I couldn't even get a FM station most of the time going up there. My Sirius XM radio signal kept dropping because the satellite radio satellites are in the southeast. Well, I was going northwest, so I was going in the opposite direction, and it was so north on the globe that it was a hit and miss whether I'd get a signal or not. And I was praying, Lord, please don't let me break down up here because I will be a popsicle by the time anybody finds me. And um, I'm serious about that because the whole 7.5 hour trip up there from when I got back on the road, I saw 3 cars and I saw 4 moose. I even saw a carcass of probably a cougar or a mountain lion up there, and there was 2 bald eagles that was on the ground on top of that carcass eating that cougar or whatever. But anyway, so I made it up to the Toco plant, Toco paper mill in the Pas, and this was one of the customers that required the driver to offload. Normally, like 80%, 85% of the time, the shipper, which is actually selling the product, they will load the trailer. Um, well, in this situation, they didn't have offloading equipment there at that paper plant, so I had to offload it myself. Now, by that time, I think it was the temperature was dropping again, and it probably is like maybe 5 or 10 degrees above zero. Well, if my luck would have it, it was so cold that while the trailer was sitting outside the Ram Wind Diesel parking lot, every valve on that trailer froze. Now there's several valves on it. Okay, in this particular load, I was going to air. I was going to. It's called air it off, air off, and you have to run a hose from your compressor on the catwalk or underneath the catwalk of your trailer. It's an air hose that runs up to the top of the trailer, and there's a Chicago fitting that connects it. Well, uh, just just for your knowledge, you never air off a flammable material because when you hook them Chicago fittings up, um, there's a chance of it creating a spark. And if you're carrying a flammable material and you spark that while you're connecting the airline, you're going to see for a brief partial second, you're going to see a flash. And that's the last thing that you're going to ever experience on the face of the earth because that trailer is going to blow up. So, another way of offloading is using your pump. Now, the pump is on the other side of the catwalk, and you never offload a corrosive because with the corrosive material gets in that pump, it's going to cause corrosion in there. So, but anyway, luckily this particular customer and product allowed for air off. Well, it was so cold that even the airline was frozen. So I had to get out there. I could only be out there like maybe 5 minutes at a time because of the wind chill factor. The people at the plant they said no, you can only be outside for 5 minutes at a time because it gets so cold. You know, you got a big jacket on, and if your ear starts itching and you do that to kind of like rub your ear might come off. It's wicked cold up there. So anyway, I had to get a steam line and air. I had to put that steam going out there 5 minutes at a time. Put the steam line. It's a hot steam that was thawing out the air in that airline because it had crystallized. The air in there had actually crystallized. It was so cold. So I was able to get that going where I could put air into the trailer to pressurize it to let the air push that ultra phase product off to the customer's tank. But I also had to um, use steam for the internal valve and the external valve. Now on a trailer, you have an internal valve, which is just like a secondary safety valve. That there's a hydraulic pump mounted on on the side of the trailer, and you have to pump the pin up. There's a valve inside the product inside the trailer that allows this pin to come up, and then the product will flow underneath that valve with that pin, and it goes to the external valve. The external valve, that product will go to. It's called a quick release bonnet, and your external valve is normally either like 2 inch or 3 inch. But anyway, so once you have your hoses hooked up and your hose is hooked from your trailer to the customer's tank, then you open up that external valve and that air pressure starts pushing that product off into the customer tank. Well, I had to 5 minutes at a time go outside and steam the internal valve to where it would open, and the external valve, even the pump, the hydraulic pump, to open the internal valve. That took probably about 2 hours for all that. Now, by this time, the temperature is probably down to -2 degrees. Well, um, I was able to finally get offloaded and uh, head back down to the down to Winnipeg because I was going to stay at that truck stop again. And the story about the American drivers that their fuel had gelled. Um, the diesel mechanic at the diesel shop said, "Listen, when you Americans come up to Canada, don't use that Howes fuel additive. Uh, that doesn't work up in Canada. If you get up to the north part of North Dakota or in Canada, you need to use Power Service. Okay, it's in a white bottle with a red cap." He was telling me that, and I always remembered that because you add fuel additive to your diesel fuel, so it won't gel. Now I had used Howes, so I thought I was staying on top of the game. Well, I was wrong. But anyway, so that's just a little story about one of my truck driving experiences. And that was one of the few times driving trucks that I actually knew that I had a job, because most of the time it was low stress and best money ever made. Hopefully, next video will have a great story that y'all will enjoy.